right, this is a trip we took here on New Year's Day 2023. Happy New Year to all y'all. Our goal was to get offshore a little bit. It's been really foggy every morning. It's made for some good sunrises, but it was a little bit of a spooky ride out. We had to go really slow. I mean, you can see right here how thick the fog was. But our goal was to get out to the area we had been maybe a week before and try to get on those good sea bass. There's been a really good sea bass bite offshore out of here in northeast Florida, so we wanted to take advantage of it when we had a nice flat ocean like we did today. Alright, so this is kind of the technique we use to fish for sea bass. We catch live grunts either on a sabiki or cuts or little pieces of squid. I like to use grunt because it's a really tough meat and it stays on the hook really good, so I cut it up into little steaks like that. We do use the double dropper rigs or high-low rigs or chicken rigs, whatever you want to call them, and I hook it through the shoulder part of the grunt here. I like to use one end. I don't like to hook it in the middle just because when it sinks it won't spin so bad. But anyhow, these are the hooks I use, 4/0 hooks. These come from a local bait and tackle shop here, but you got to get them with the oversized eyes right there so you can get your dropper loops through them. We like to do the drift. We just drift along here. We use nothing fancy, just I guess what I'd call lighter weight conventional outfits here. 40-pound, 50-pound mono. I use 50-pound leader for my dropper loops, but we'll drift here for a bit. If we can find a good bite, I do drift with the trolling motor down, and if we feel like we're on a spot where there's a little bit better fish, I will reach over, grab the remote for the spotlight and hit the anchor and sit there and fish for a little bit. See if we don't catch some bigger sea bass. If not, I turn it off and we drift some more. I typically drift over live bottom, not large wrecks or anything where you can get snagged. These double dropper loop rigs, chicken rig style, will drift over live bottom pretty well without snagging. If you use some of the other rigs like a grouper rig or something like that, you tend to get snagged a lot. So that's how we do it. So on this day we made it out to our first spot, and it was really a lot of red snapper, and so we decided we'd leave. But right before we left, Eli put this really nice jolthead porgy in the boat. So we fished a little bit longer, more red snapper, so we decided we'd move to a spot I had about just maybe 1.5 miles away. When we got here, the fish were biting. They were some pretty nice sea bass right off the bat, not quite keepers, real close. Had to throw a lot of 12.5 inch fish back. Here in the Atlantic, they got to be 13 inches long. Some of them barely made it. This one here, by that little point of his tail, made the 13-inch limit. All right, well, thankfully not all the fish were just 12.5 inches. We did manage to catch some that made the 13-inch limit here pretty easily. This one made it to about 14 inches long. But if you fish for sea bass, you can see they're always constantly spitting stuff up, and if it ain't coming from out of their mouth like a fish they just eaten, then it's coming out their backside and they're pooping all over the deck of your boat. They're a pretty gross fish, but they are good to eat. Alright, so we decided our cooler was looking pretty good. It was still early in the day, so we just called it a day. It was early enough to get home and watch football. It was football Sunday, of course, and so I just covered our fish with ice. Patted them down pretty good there and put our bait back in the cooler, our unused bait back in the cooler, and we decided we would go ahead and start making that ride home. The fog had never lifted, and sometimes it was even thicker on the way in, but thankfully about 3 or 4 mile mark that fog just lifted and we had a really good ride all the way in. So if you made it to the end, thanks for watching.